Greetings from Alaska. It's Fred Roll, Young Tribal Council member from Dillingham, Alaska. Sorry. Finally got some sunshine outside. I got a little sweaty. You got to enjoy it while you can. Today, heard from my cousin Nikolai Chris. He's still under the weather. He's doing a lot better, but he really doesn't feel like being recorded or any of that. However, he gave me permission to use his name and share his experience. This happened just a couple of years ago. He went up on the Nuyakuk with a couple other relatives. They were going to go up there and just kind of look around, do some, I think they were woodland caribou, looking for caribou or something, just kind of scouting around. It was in the fall, probably early September, I think he said, mid-September, probably right around the same time of year I was up there in 2006. Anyway, they ended up staying at the very first salmon counting little cabin, which is bigger than the one we stayed in further up the Nuyakuk by the Nuyakuk Falls. So they were, when they had got there, this particular counting shack had an actual shed, and it also had the bunkhouse. So when they got there, there was some other guys there in the bunkhouse. And they just left them alone. They got in that shed. And however, this happened the year before that story I shared with you about the guys leaving middle of the night. And then they went into the cabin, and then the hairy man came in, peeked over the door, and tried to snatch the guy. This happened the year after that, or the year before. So roughly within the same short time frame. We had been talking about it, so I got them mixed up a little bit. But the guys in the cabin, they weren't going anywhere. Two of them were fish and game officers, I guess. So they're kicking it in that shed. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning. They had been sitting up discussing, because they'd gotten there relatively late in the day. Riding on the river all day, trust me, it takes it out of you. You just bumping around. It's not a joyride, let's say. So as they're chilling out, of course they're armed. This is Alaska, remote Alaska on a Bear River. Come on, yeah, they were heavily armed. So as they're sitting there, they're on either side of the shack in these little makeshift cots, right? And they hear this heavy breathing going around the shack, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" Something was off. He said that when he was talking to his Iluk kept saying, Chikayok, it's a hairy man out there. And he was like, nah, it's not. It's probably just a bear, which pretty standard response around here. You go out thinking it's a bear. So they go and listen at the door, and as he's going to open the door, they felt it jiggle. So they held it, because bears don't jiggle doors. So this makeshift shed had a actual doorknob and 3 hinges on the door, and was utilitarian. It was basically a hollow shell. I think there was shelving in the back, he said. So they're standing there, and all of a sudden, bam, bam, it's just getting banged on really hard, and they're nervous. So of course they get their guns, and they got them. Like, hey, we're in here, Announce yourself. Who's there? We have guns. We're armed. Nothing. More circling around, and it felt heavy in the ground, they said. So as they're sitting there, they're discussing, well, who in the hell is that? We got fish and game troopers right 35 feet away, It wasn't adding up what was going on. So as they're sitting there, they kept hearing this huffing and puffing going around, and it sounded like at one point it was breathing on top of the shed. They heard the heavy breathing coming from above. Big. And so they decided, well, let's confront this thing. Let's confront it. We'll shoot it. Whatever. Hey, when you're in the woods and something's terrifying you, you got a gun. Guess what? You're gonna freaking shoot it. Yeah, I mean that's just how it is. I don't care who it is. If you're in the woods and something freaky's going on, and you got a gun. Anyway, so they peek out. They saw nothing. They shut the door again. And as they shut the door, it was trying to be forced back in, so they pushed real hard. They got it shut. They latched a little thing that they had there. It was like a little wood piece that kind of flung over onto a little L bracket. Nothing. A nothing lock. This place is, anyway, it was just a hollow shed. So it was a one-sided roof on this shed, and it was about a 5-12 pitch, not too steep. And so they keep hearing it going around and going around, and they're getting nervous because as it's going around, it starts slapping the side of that shed that they were in, and they had finally had enough. And just as they were getting up the gumption to go back out again, bang, 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 there was banging at the door. The third guy with them turned on his headlamp. They all put on their headlamps, just watching this door just slowly just get beat to shit, and then bam, the thing flies back past them, and there's this hairy man squatted down, looking at him, just looking at him in there, and it was staring at him, and they were frozen in fear. They couldn't believe what the fuck are we seeing here. One of the guys with them started trying to speak Yupik, trying to say Chmai, trying to see if, there was some kind of communication to be had. And this thing just, it showed its teeth and put its hands on either side of the shed and was kind of pushing against it, making this weird noise. So his cousin across the way clicked the safety off, and it ran off around the shed. So they're freaked out. I mean, they froze up from like, holy, the oh shit factor. And then they hear it run around, and they're expecting it to come to the doorway, so they're all sitting there, like Three Stooges, no offense, but, they're just sitting there just, waiting for this thing to come around, but it doesn't. It jumps on the roof. Now, he said when it jumped on the roof, all they heard was the pressure of its weight. So this thing was so nimble, it jumped up and just landed there smoothly. It didn't like kaboom or none of that. It just, whoosh, and it was up there. And they heard the weight there. And so they're like, oh shit, freak out mode. Totally understandable. Been there. So they said, after a second or two and it wasn't moving, they're like, let's shoot it. Let's get it. Because they wanted to run to the other cabin and get the fish and game troopers involved, I mean, why wouldn't you if they're right there? I would too, shit. So they run out and they turn around and point up. They see it and they start blasting away at this thing, and it just jumps off the backside. They hear it land, and it was gone. All the shots wake up everyone in the other bunk. Now, this is what he told me. I'm not going to name the troopers. I won't put them on blast like that. But they all came out. They were all armed. They're trying to figure out, WTF, who's shooting in the middle of the night. Is there a bear? Or, do we need to be concerned kind of thing? Or is it a drunk guy that we need to arrest, take into custody to stop from hurting anybody? So, as they come out, of course, they're freaking. They're like, hey, the hairy man, it was just over there, da-da-da-da, or whatever. And everyone was calm. They were like, oh. And Nikolai didn't know these people. He'd seen the troopers around, but he didn't know them. We don't, hey, buddy, we have relatives that are in there, but anyway. So, they're all kind of introducing each other, so I'm so-and-so from so-and-such and such, whatever. And they're saying, hey, the hairy man tried to get us, that's why we were shooting. And the guys go, whoa, calm down. It did the same thing to us. We did the same thing. And they were like, well, what do you mean it did the same thing to you? And you still have a door. And they said, no, it was jumping on the roof, jumping off, banging the walls, looking in the windows at us. So this thing, for 2 days prior, had been doing the same thing, looking for a way to get somebody. It was predatory behavior. They're sitting there doing their own thing. These were wildlife troopers. They're not out, doing nefarious shit. They were up there doing some type of research. I think they were getting ready to go in the field and check hunting licenses for the hunters they came across out in the bush hunting for caribou. Hey, they're doing their job. But they said for 2 days, this thing was lurking around this place, banging at night. It only happened at night. They saw it one time during the day up in a lagoon, and it ran across the lagoon. So they were pan-faced. They were, they were like, yeah, it was here and it left. Good thing it left. And they said, do you think you hit it? And Nikolai was like, well, fuck yeah, I hit it. I know how to shoot. And they said, okay. And the way he took it, they were so like nonchalant about it, like it was just another day, which essentially it is. But these things up on the Nuyakuk River, that is the only place I've ever been. Now I've been to plenty of other places in Alaska, and anytime I've come across something, It's always made itself known. Shook a tree, break something, maybe throw something, little pebbles at you. You don't even realize it's following you at first. But on that Nuyakuk River, from like the village of Kaliganik up the Nuyakuk, where it wraps around and goes back up to Tikshik Narrows and past the Nuyakuk Falls, that area up there is no joke. I shared a photographer's encounter at the Nuyakuk Falls just the other day. Same area, probably 35, 45 miles away from there. But my point being is there's these places in remote Alaska, whether you accept it or not, it's irrelevant. If you were to go to the village of Kaliganik and bring up the hairy man, A, they probably wouldn't even talk to you about it, or B, they would just look at you like, well, yeah, it's like talking to them about a moose across the river. It's just what it is. And for a lot of people, hearing stuff like that, it's kind of hard to accept. It's kind of hard to just go, wait a minute. All these years, these things are running around terrorizing people, and nothing is being done. And that's exactly right. Nothing is being done. They take whatever precautions they got worked out. I've talked to a few of them, but I haven't had a chance to really delve deep. It's just been little cursory conversations, prepping for interviews. But it's typically not talked about. Like I've said before, they get back to the village, it's just another day. Unless someone asks, oh, did you see a hairy man? Or they may share with the immediate family. But outside of that immediate family dynamic, it's like saying, oh, I saw a moose cross the road up here. It's something that happens all the time. So it's not news. It's not worthy of running around, oh my God, get your gun, there's a hairy man. It's not even like that. Which, to me, it boggles my mind, because I had to get the fuck out of Dodge, to be honest with you. I couldn't stick around knowing that they're that aggressive up that way. I have some encounters coming soon from the actual village of Kaliganik. These less than 100 year-round residents there. Great people. I have more relatives there than I realized. Just reaching out, and then oh, hey, look, cousins, and so just beware on the Nuyakuk. I mean, that shit's real out there.